Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations, episode 2 of the new year. We're excited here to be talking to Tom Dobbins. Happy New Year, Tom.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, Aaron.
Yes, good to see you again, Lucas.
Yep.
Oh, so excited.
We're excited because we've had a couple conversations around the topic we're going to hit today. But as I say every episode, I'm pretty sure I'm becoming a broken record. Once again, we're hitting it from a different direction and bringing different ideas and thoughts to everybody. And so I'm super excited, Tom, to dig in with you. But Tom, you join us on your way to your next leadership role. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and introduce yourself, and then we can kick off this conversation that we're looking forward to.
Sure. I've had the pleasure of 25 years in the association business and 15 years as a CEO. And I'm doing a little consulting right now in Porters Creek Solutions, helping some associations and companies with strategic planning, government affairs, and some other projects. So having a lot of fun. But thinking about leadership.
Yes, I love that. So that's what we want to, of course, kick off with today. So you and I got to connect a little bit before, then you and Lucas and I got to connect a little bit before, and there were so many things that you dropped as little nuggets along the way that I was immediately, you dropped a name, Marcus Buckingham, who I've seen at the Global Leadership Summit. So I'm excited to hear thoughts on that. You dropped some acronyms. I usually refer to it as RACI. I think you said RACI. So let's just kick it off. Let's talk about leadership and why it's important to be talking about it right now and sort of what you're thinking to focus on in 2022.
Sure. I guess I would we're always developing our leadership skills. None of us sprung from the womb as great leaders, so we're constantly working through that. And the area that I've been working on most recently is clarity, and that was Marcus Buckingham's. And I listened to his book on this, and he said, "Leaders bring clarity." And of course, from some of us who've come from government affairs, we like living in the shadows and in the gray areas.
A little murky than
exactly.
Yeah.
And but clarity, as I tested it and started applying it, I realized how important it is for teamwork and teams, and whether it's we've talked about some of these things leading up to this conversation, whether it's our role in the organization, having clarity around that, having clarity about what we're trying to achieve, whether it's in the long run over the next 3 to 5 years or within this coming year. What are we doing, and what's my role in it, and what's the structure in which I'm operating for that?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the government affairs part. I sometimes feel like growing up in the DC area or being here around, associations and government, we're somehow sort of ingrained to almost be a little ambiguous sometimes. And that's the opposite of really what you need within your organization in terms of clarity. And we even take it down to, we don't write job descriptions, we write scorecards, because we want there to be clarity on expectations. And we follow some of the OEM stuff that we want quarterly walks, we want weekly sprints, we want to help people create the clarity. And then we talked a little bit before about prioritization specifically. So maybe Tom, you could talk about your time as a CEO, how you implemented that some at your associations.
Oh, sure. And that gets to the structure part of it. Is the Cheshire Cat says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will lead you there. Yeah. And so the first bit of clarity that comes about is what is our strategic plan? What does success look like 3 to 5 years from now for this organization? Because for every organization has a different view of what success is for itself. Yeah. And then the next level of clarity is, okay, what are we going to do this year to achieve that level of success, to achieve our goals? And then what's my role in it? What's your role in it? And that's where, again, a tool like RACI, which is responsibility, accountability, consulting, and being informed. Those are all different roles that we play in our team. How do we get those? How do we get absolute clarity on that? And I've done the exercise where we've literally gotten to an area where we've said, okay, how about this area? And there's dead silence in the room.
Right.
And finally somebody says, well, I guess that's my responsibility.
Yeah. It helps you avoid the tragedy of the commons, right? When you can have that real clear direction. And I think if I could just chime in here from a responsibility perspective and an accountability perspective, first of all, maybe you can even just expand upon how those two things are different, because I do think that a lot of people use responsibility and accountability interchangeably when they're not actually interchangeable. But I do think that as you mentioned a little bit in the preamble, and you can talk on this, everybody in their organization has an opportunity to be a leader based on what it is that they're overseeing and controlling. And clarity really is important. And at least something that I've seen, and I'm curious how you've seen it, is a lot of times people only know how to be clear once they've seen something and can respond. So being able to generate that clarity from nothing, put pen to paper, can sometimes be the biggest hang up for someone figuring out how to be clear about something. And I'm assuming a tool like RACI would help people do that. But I think I just layered 3 questions in there. Great interviewing, Aaron. But maybe if you could pick one of them, I mean, geez, I usually do a better job at this. Let me just lead you down 3 paths. But if you might take one of those questions and respond to it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure, I'll try to treat them as dominoes. So the first level of clarity is I guess the first thing I would say off of that is, I believe that in most associations, everybody is a leader in some way, shape, or form. You're leading the membership growth, initiatives. You may only be the leader of the recruiting part of it. Somebody else may be the leader of the retention part. You're the leader of events or a single event. You're the leader of I answer the phones and I'm the person, I'm the face and voice of the organization coming in. I'm the leader on that. So having that clarity and being responsible, that's where responsibility is. Generally is somebody up the chain who's accountable in terms of how you are doing with your responsibility. But then there should be people around you who are supporting you. And so, and I think that it's hard. I've noticed that there are times when people are reluctant to be accountable or responsible in associations because you feel like you're on a high wire. And so, gee, if I'm the one who's responsible or accountable for this, then if it doesn't work out, I'm the one who's gonna take it. I would encourage us to flip the mindset, and you can do it 2 ways. The one thing is, if I'm accountable and responsible for this, when it's successful, ta-da! So we need to have a culture that supports the organization when we do fall short, and then recognize and celebrates when we're successful. And the other thing that takes away the high wire aspect of it is, if you are with a team, if you feel that team around you, and RACI helps clarify everyone's role on the team. Aaron, you're the lead. I'm part of your team. I'm going to help you be successful. And then in the same token, if you've got a hard decision to make, I hope we can talk about decision making. If you got a difficult decision to make, it's not your decision alone. You are part of a team, and you use the team to help you crowdsource with people, with your colleagues who are the best, source of information. So that is how even junior people in an organization can be leaders, because they can, on their team, can be more senior people who have more experience and can help them think through the issue.
Well, I like that you said specifically think through the issue there at the end, because it's not necessarily the leader's role to come in all the time and just sort of tell people what to do and slap it around and make the decisions. I think sometimes asking the right questions can pull out the best results from the people who are closest to the actual project. Sometimes you don't find yourself in the day-to-day of the project, and so you don't have all of the nuance and the detail. But that team environment, and we encourage people to come together in small teams and groups, because more ears and more eyes create more perspectives and more ideas. In the book, Measure What Matters, John Dewar, it talks about, the OKRs, which is objective and key results, which is how the Google team was originally formed and excelled around this idea. They meet in small teams and they meet often and they talk about their objectives and did we hit our objectives? And if we fell short, let's talk about why. And ultimately somebody's got to be tied as the responsible party. But let's come together as a group and find out what's the resolution and how we move forward, reassign everything, set some new dates and gates and move forward as a team collectively. So I think that was an excellent point about the group mentality.
Yeah, and the other thing that I found is that when you generally get a group of people, give them the same amount of information, and this works whether you're working with a board or with a team that's trying to grow membership. If you give people the same amount of information, you work through, you understand all the key aspects of the decision, 99% of the time, everyone's going to come out in the same place.
Right.
And so it's not you alone making this decision. And in terms of decisions, the other challenge that we face as leaders, again, leading a project team, leading an organization, is making decisions. Mm-hmm. And so there are a couple of things that I would say in terms of decision making. The first thing is, if you don't make a decision, you don't know whether the decision was right or wrong. If you push it off, you never get feedback on that. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that making small decisions. Not are we gonna start a brand new product line in this part of the association or not? Are we gonna do some research with our members to see if they're interested in more projects or programs for the organization? Okay, of those, which is the best one? And then do we have the resources for this? Do we have? And you break those decisions down. And one of the things that I've said is the beauty of working in associations is that if the decision's not right, we can make a course correction. We can change. Anyone who's worked with me has heard about my friend who's a pediatric neurosurgeon, and if he makes mistakes, kids get killed or maimed for life. Yeah. He can't make, if we make a bad decision or if we make a mistake, guess what? We say, made a mistake, sorry, bad decision, sorry, we've learned something, now we can move in this direction. And nobody, generally, there's not that. That's why I encourage people to take responsibility, take accountability, because you can always make adjustments. And if the culture is right in the organization, we should actually be encouraging people to make decisions, take measured risks, try to be innovative and move forward.
Yeah, associations in that sort of healthy place with say all the cash flow and all the other things that they have in place can take some really good calculated risks. And if you fall on your face, right, exactly right, get up. I think the important piece of that, I think we might have talked about this in another episode, was taking the time, post trip and fall to evaluate, why did this go wrong? What ultimately in the rearview mirror tells us that this wouldn't have worked, that maybe we either missed at the time or didn't talk to evaluate, or maybe couldn't have known, but know now. And so let's describe the new scar that we have, and let's not make the mistake again. I think that's an important aspect too of learning.
Yeah. And in my experience, very few of those things are fall on your face kinds of moments. It's okay, this isn't quite working, but I think if we if we change it over here, it's not working as a newsletter, but if it were a periodical, that's where the sweet spot is. And so it's never, gee, we shouldn't have launched this program, we lost $100,000. It's not, we're not hitting our revenue targets, and you tweak it and then it does, so that's the other part of it. Is it's never success and failure. It's can I tweak it and make it better?
That's fair.
I think you made yeah, I was going to say, I think you made again, coming back to that responsibility, accountability, consult, and inform, part of why that helps bring clarity so close to things is because for those people who are afraid to take responsibility and accountability, it's mostly because they're not sure that there's one or the other plus the consulting and the informing. And once you've laid out that framework, you're making those decisions knowing that at the end it's like, but I did consult, that's who I was supposed to consult, and I've consulted, and this is the person who's accountable, and this is who I informed. And so we're all in this together. There's no tragedy of commons. We've known what our role is here. And so if something went wrong, there's just a safer environment to review those types of things because there's been real clarity around everyone's role and responsibility and how they are to act in those decisions. So I think finding that framework is really important.
And the flip side of it is, Erin, is that we have to also, when we're working, not have this sort of, this is mine, this is my responsibility. I'm the membership person and I determine what the marketing is going to be. I'm going to determine this. I'm going to determine that. Is the sense of, hey, I'm going to be open, and I'm going to work. I'm going to crowdsource this with my colleagues in terms of, hey, what do you think about this for a marketing message? What do you think about that? Or if your boss comes to you and says, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Not to be threatened, not to be, pull it back and say, hey, I'm the membership person or I'm the events person, leave me alone. But to say, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm doing, and here's why. And then from the big leader's perspective of saying, okay, I'm supporting you. I'm not the leader of the events program here. She is. Yeah. And so this is where she wants to go. I've asked her some questions. I've helped her clarify in her mind where she wants to go. Let's try it. And let's learn from this. And so
the bigger the project, the more input and collaboration you need, right? So within the membership department, they could try to take a new campaign or a new newsletter idea and it didn't work. Okay, we missed a mark. Whereas on the bigger scale, let's say you tried to turn over your entire AMS system because you think that it's broken in some form or fashion, and you only consult with the membership department, or you only consult with the finance department, or whatever it is, the reason that you thought it was broken. And then you end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on a solution that unless you talk to everybody, you just don't know, and you set yourself up for a bigger failure.
I will make myself available to come back and talk about AMSs, because I've done 3 AMS and did one in government, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do AMS. And it's the heart of it is, Lucas, exactly what you said. It's the more people you get involved in it, the better chance you're giving yourself for having a positive outcome.
I love this. I'll use this opportunity to say, all right, I'm coming in with the hook because you offered yourself for another topic, and we will take you up on that as we go along this year in content. But we are coming to our time limit here, and I want to make sure I offer you a moment to offer up another colleague of yours that you think that we could benefit hearing from in the future, and to thank you, Tom, for being here.
Oh, thanks, Erin, and thanks, Lucas. This was really fun, and I've had the privilege of working with some great folks in Washington, D.C. And I'll pick out 3 of them. There are a lot of others.
I love it. We keep
very
getting
worthy
hitters. Great.
Heather Roderick is the president and CEO of the Valve Manufacturers Association. And she really made the American Composites Manufacturers Association, where I worked, what it is today, a great organization. And so I would highly recommend you talking to her. And she's a great expert on events, but knows the whole area. Scott Lindley, Director of Membership Services at the American Chemistry Council. He is brilliant on marketing and membership development. He is really good. And then Paul Hartkin, who's the Vice President for Member and Business Services at NAM. Great guy, great skills in working and developing members, but also is showing great leadership in non-dues revenue programs. So those are 3 excellent people to talk to.
I love that. That's a really nice broad spectrum, and everyone in the association world. Yeah.
I happen to know Tom, and I've spoken, with Paul, and I know Paul, and I was just kind of waiting for somebody to mention his name. I knew it would come up eventually, so I can't wait to pull Paul in.
Well, and I want to tell you that all 3 of them are of the caliber of Jamie Bolio, who you had and who recommended me, who's an outstanding association leader.
Yeah. No, we've been very lucky. And this is just one more lucky interview we've been able to have. And again, another purview on something, another perspective, which we just are surprised every time we get back on here, given I think this is episode 32, and yet we haven't really crossed over on the same discussion topic. So thanks so much for bringing some new, fresh ideas to us, especially on leadership, which I think everyone can always learn from. And we hope to speak to you soon, potentially on the AMS subject.
Yeah. Thanks you so much, Tom. It was our pleasure.
Thanks, guys.